Floodgates are good for Yu-Gi-Oh! One bad take. Dude, I feel like this video was like made for me, like to rage bait me in particular. I'm kidding, obviously. I love Panda Cat. I've been watching their streams, so hopefully, hopefully they don't mind if I react to this. Let's see.
Whew, that rain sure is coming down. Hope it doesn't flood again.
Very funny.
Sorry. Let me put up the floodgates.
Floodgates. For those who don't follow me that much, I always crash out about Floodgates. I literally was just crashing out about it like a few minutes ago. So this is like, I want to hear the arguments on favor of Floodgates. Because for me, Floodgates straight up shouldn't exist. I don't know why we're doing this. I'm glad that they are being banned slowly. But at the same time, new cards that enable Floodgates keep appearing. So yeah, I'm curious about this. Maybe it actually changes my mind. Let's see, hopefully, right? Like we can find even a middle ground. Because for me right now, it's like ban all Floodgates, no exceptions. Let's watch.
Ah, that's better. Nothing to worry about.
Oh, I love this.
Welcome to One Bad Take, the series where we take an immensely unpopular opinion about Yu-Gi-Oh!, one considered completely indefensible, and attempt to defend it to our dying breath.
Okay. I see it. I understand better now. So we actually know that this is a bad take. We actually know this. Okay, that helps me a lot. That brings me hope. Like we know this is a bad take. Okay. I thought we would think actually this.
Should we unlimit Shifter? Should we design every deck to zone lock like Kashtira? Is Stun the best way to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Let's decide together.
I know these are like just examples, but they are already making me like, ugh, you know? Like I'm so against it that I'm like, ugh.
This is One Bad Take.
Oh, I love this intro, really good. What is Clip doing there? What is my favorite meatball doing there?
Cat here, and welcome back to another episode.
Hi, Cat.
The past two videos have been kid stuff compared to what we're tackling today. That's right. Some of you agreed Maxi needed to come back to 3. Some of you agreed that power creep was good for the game. So I figured I needed to step up my game a little bit and come up with a take so dastardly, so devious, that not a single person in the comments could agree.
Oh, I love this.
And here it is. I believe that floodgates are not only necessary for Yu-Gi-Oh! To exist as a game, but they genuinely make the game more enjoyable when they are an active consideration within a given meta.
Okay, that is a huge win, right? That is a huge win that is carrying so hard.
That's right. I want my skills drained and my vanities emptied. I want there to be only one. I want my Gozen matched and my warlords in active rivalry. With a game as unlimited and bombastic as Yu-Gi-Oh!, with a game with as many inclement floods as Yu-Gi-Oh! Has, I believe it is more than reasonable for floodgates to exist and to be as prominent as they are.
Alright, I want to hear
We'll go through the arguments one by one. But first, I want to establish what exactly constitutes a floodgate in Yu-Gi-Oh! For those newer to the game or unfamiliar.
Very important, chat.
A floodgate is a card that turns off or shuts down one particular strategy or mechanic in the card game.
Shuts down a particular mechanic or strategy. Okay.
A lingering effect that bars a certain thing from happening.
Bans a certain thing from happening. Like activating effects on the field? Yeah, you are done. No more activating monster effects on the field. You can only activate it from hand or graveyard or whatever, but not from the field.
With skill drain, that thing is monster effects on the field. With dimensional barrier, that thing is an extra deck type of your choice no longer working.
Yeah, you cannot summon certain things from the extra deck. Certain summoning mechanics? Done. No more.
Basically, it's a mechanic that denies the use of another specific mechanic. So why do I think this is good for the game?
So, someone was telling me, right? Like, oh yeah, Typhon is a floodgate and you love Typhon. Yes, Typhon technically has a floodgate that doesn't let your opponent activate monster effects from monsters that have more than 3,000 or more attack, which is such a small thing, right? You can out the Typhon before summoning a 3,000 thing, and also Typhon can only be summoned as your last summoning of the turn, right? So Typhon seems like the good kind of Floodgate, in my opinion, right? It's not such a big deal. It's just like such a big condition. But yeah.
Let's get into the arguments.
Alright. Argument 1. Okay, guys, but with all due respect.
Mystic Mine is a card that reads, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. If you control more monsters than your opponent does, you cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. Once per turn, during the end phase, if both players control the same number of monsters, destroy this card. In 2022, the card was terrorizing ranked play as a commonly playable Floodgate that many found incredibly difficult to out. But was that a problem with the card, or with the players? The discourse around Mystic Mine got to a point that one of Yu-Gi-Oh's top players, Jesse Cotton, put out a tweet that has become iconic. Okay guys, but with all due respect, how are you not prepared for mine at this point? It's a little ridiculous to not have a well thought out plan when entering a tournament.
Okay.
Now, the tweet has been memed to hell and back, but ultimately the point he was making...
We could do the same thing, right? We can be like... Okay guys, but with all due respect, how are you not prepared for Cool Toon Rotary at this point? It's a little ridiculous to not have a well thought out plan when entering a tournament. I know it's a different situation.
Plan when entering a tournament.
But it's funny to think about.
Now, the tweet has been memed to hell and back, but ultimately the point he was making, I think, remains entirely valid. If you are playing a deck that loses to a certain Floodgate, you should have a game plan for dealing with that Floodgate if it's popular in the format. I'm speaking specifically here about competitive play, but deciding what deck to play and what tech cards to include is...
What language is this? what a card to use.
A test of a player's skill to interpret and ideate upon a format. Floodgates add another layer of complexity to that process. A process I think is healthy for the game because it reveals a player's capacity to plan for the competitive metagame.
To plan for the competitive metagame. Interesting. So it's a good thing because it makes people have to be prepared for it?
With all due respect, the players who prepped for Mystic Mine were going to edge out the players who didn't, and I don't think that's bad for the game at the highest levels.
I understand this thing. Like I hear this when I go against for example Lunalight, right? I've been complaining a lot about Lunalight. It's like, how are you not prepared for Liger Dancer? You know your opponent can summon Liger Dancer and you don't have an out in your deck for Liger Dancer. Why don't you run a Kaiju? Or I don't know what else, right? A Kaiju or something for Liger Dancer. It's your fault for not being prepared for Liger Dancer. But like we are not like at least when I play, right, in Master Duel, in like Master or whatever. Like I'm gonna face a Liger Dancer every like 100 matches, right? Why would I sacrifice consistency to be prepared for that, right? Sacrifice consistency with a Kaiju in my deck instead of that. Like it makes deck building boring, right? Especially if it's not the main thing. Like in Mystic Mine, I guess because it was like super popular, right? But right now, no one plays Liger Dancer. But every time that it happens, I just have to scoop because I don't have an out. I don't have an out. What do? I scoop. The game is better for that? I don't know. Although it is funny seeing people try to get rid of Liger Dancer. Like one of my duels, someone tried to both Typhon and King Sark. Oh my god, dude. That is even worse. Like at least have the decency of scooping if I see my opponent is playing. If I see my opponent playing Lunalight, I guess I lose. I'm not gonna sacrifice my consistency to add one Kaiju. I guess I also prepare. I'm also prepared for other decks, but other decks are easier to out Anyways, if I draw a card, maybe I don't draw a card. What do I do, right? Bro, Street Brain, how are you not prepared for draw? Yeah, yeah. This is just going to be boiled down to add more generic removal. I can't search that. Exactly. It's like either you draw it or not, right? Either you draw it or not. Like some decks just can't, that don't have that in engine. They just cannot get to that card, to a card that is removal. Especially if the card is not letting you play the game. I don't think that is a good argument.
Edge out the players who didn't, and I don't think that's bad for the game at the highest levels.
I read Baby's first stun deck. If this is the argument that it's easier to play for new players, that is also a bad argument because you're not learning to play the game. You are just learning to not have a game of Yu-Gi-Oh, which is bad for literally everyone, right? That is bad for literally everyone. So I hope this is not the argument.
One of the most common arguments people give in favor of stun, more broadly, and Floodgates as an extension, is that it helps new players get into the game.
Bad argument. You are not learning anything. You are not learning anything. You are actually like making it worse for everyone, right? You're not learning the game. If you're not learning how to interact with your opponent, you are not learning Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a horrible example. Yeah.
It allows for less skilled players to outperform more skilled players by nature of playing a simpler strategy with a more obvious win condition.
That's also bad. Good players should always defeat bad players. Bad players shouldn't be able to win against good players. That is absurd. That makes no sense.
Don't know how to combo yet? Flip skill drain. Don't know how to break a board yet? Flip there can be only one. Don't know how to interrupt your opponent yet? Normal summon Fossil Dyna. Well,
see, it's a way of getting cheap wins that don't mean anything because you're not learning the game. That's a bad thing.
I think this argument as a whole is a little patronizing and underestimates the capacity of new players. I do think it reveals one of the things Floodgates are really, really good at. They don't just do a lot, they feel like they do a lot. Here's what I mean by that.
They feel like they do a lot. Okay.
Impermanence is a great card. Spot negation that can be activated from hand is a really, really powerful effect in Yu-Gi-Oh! The problem with Imperm in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that oftentimes it feels like it doesn't do anything at all. You Imperm their Q, and then they activate Synchro Overtake afterwards, and your Imperm might as well have done nothing.
But that's what you have to know when to use Imperm and how to use it, right?
While this is an important part of the game, and a skill check in its own right, I think it is equally important to have cards that feel like they accomplish a lot merely by being activated. This is where I think the real onboarding potential of Floodgates lies. They feel really good to play. They have a discernible effect on the game state immediately and continuously.
What? No, there are some Floodgates that actually do a lot. If the opponent plays something that doesn't let me special summon, and I only have... all my monsters need to special summon to function, I literally have nothing to do. Like, literally all my cards are like... They don't have the yellow glow, right? They are not glowing yellow. What am I supposed to do? If the card says like, oh yeah, you can only play... you cannot play spells, right? Yeah, play, and all my hands are spells, because that's what my deck is. Like, I just lose. What? They do a lot. If I cannot activate monster effects and all my monsters are like required effects in order to function, then I lose. What?
Drain or there can be only one or a Kaiser Coliseum is going to dictate the way the game is played for the entirety of the game. And if they get outed, it is very obvious why, when, and how the cards were removed.
Yeah, but Draco Tail and all activated effects from hand, right? So they don't care about Imperm. Yeah, decks that don't care about that are good decks. That is the point. They are good decks.
By nature of their design, Floodgates make complex game states in Yu-Gi-Oh! Much more readable and accessible, and for that reason, I believe, have a net positive on the game.
Wait, that argument didn't convince me. Why we like Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, I like Yu-Gi-Oh because of the interactions. I like interacting with my opponent. Yeah, I think it's fun to play the game. Yeah, I think I enjoy playing Yu-Gi-Oh and I enjoy interacting with my opponent. The back and forth, right? The chain links. I activate something and then my opponent responds with something and then I respond with something and then they respond with something and then it's like, I ran out of interaction. You're good. You're the better player here. And that's it. So, what is this?
I'm unsure if this is a fair point to include in a video like this, and it probably merits its own video, but bear with me. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an interesting game. Cards like Skill Drain could be entirely fine balance-wise on release, and then, as the game grows more complex, become completely overpowered.
By his logic, Skill Drain has the same issue as Imperm though. If Rico gets... Is it Rico or Rico? I don't know. Rico gets negated with Skill Drain, you just synchro off. Yeah. And pop off as... Oh yeah, you can pop off because the effect activates in the graveyard. Yeah, that's a good deck.
But think about it like this. If there's a format where everybody is playing 3 Skill Drain, the best decks would be the decks with high attack monsters, and the decks that activated cards mostly in the hand, graveyard, and banishment, alongside decks that were built mostly around spell and trap effects. This isn't necessarily a bad format, is it? Cool Tune and Draco Tail would still be fine. VSK9 might even still be okay.
Wait, how? How do I out this with K9 Vanquish Soul? Wait, how do I out Skill Drain with K9 Vanquish Soul? Am I missing something? I mean, I guess I can pop something with X-Force Release. I can pop it with X-Force Release. Now, how do I get to the point where I can summon an Xyz monster first? I guess it's possible. Yeah, I guess it's possible. How do I search for it? How do I search for it exactly? How do I search for X4 release? He's so wrong here about that. Look at the varieties emptiness. The format will change. People will just make full end board turn 1 and set Floodgate behind it. Yeah, the heart of the cards. Yeah.
Sky Striker and Branded would still see play, and some decks would even make a comeback.
Alright, Sky Striker, yeah. Branded, I guess.
Kashtira would probably be fine.
Yeah, but do we want Kashtira to be probably fine? I don't want Kashtira to be probably fine. I want Kashtira to not exist. No, just a Rythard.
There's an argument that a deck like Ritual Beast, with all its tagging out, could see a return.
I don't even know what that
Eyes,
is.
Which can send skill drain.
Do we want Snake Eyes, chat?
For cost, could see more play again. What I'm saying is, just because a Floodgate warps a format does not make the format inherently worse or less interesting. Playing a deck with a distinct weakness to Shifter or Droll, or Skill Drain, or Teekboo is a factor that has to be considered when choosing your deck. I don't think that Floodgates are good in spite of warping the game around them, but rather because they do warp the game in a way that is clear and obvious enough to plan around and communicate. And doesn't something like you can't do X anymore just feel like a Yu-Gi-Oh anime effect?
It's not a good argument.
Feel like something a villain would flip in our
It is something a villain will flip. Yes, it is 100% that.
protagonist would have to find a way to out?
Don't forget, the villains in you are like basically cheaters. They are basically psychopaths. And they are framed as being, you know, evil.
And isn't that just fun?
No. No, it's not.
Again, I'm gonna try and keep the counter-argument section relatively brief because I enjoy reading all of your counter-arguments in the comments, and the conceit of the video is already putting us sort of on the wrong side of history in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? We're already taking the unpopular arguing position.
I know, by the way, I know Panda Cat doesn't actually believe this. It's just like a challenge of trying to justify one bad take, right? Because no one could actually believe this unless they are like psychopaths or something, or they just hate Yu-Gi-Oh.
So, I did want to address a couple though before summating and deciding kind of where we land on Floodgates as a whole. So let's start here. First, and this one I think is Master Duel specific. In Master Duel, with no side deck and a format that encourages sacking, Floodgates are more problematic because it is impossible to prepare for everything, and you're gonna get sacked, right? In a format that has side decking, you're able to side deck in outs to popular Floodgates for games 2 and 3, so that, you know, if your opponent does flip skill drain on you, you have Mystical Space Typhoon to out it, and then you can keep going, right?
But what if you don't draw them?
That is a very, very simple example, but also kind of like a nice one, right? And you can't do that in Master Duel. You simply cannot do that on ladder, which makes Floodgates...
Exactly, yeah. In Master Duel it's even worse.
In a best of one format, probably feel much more frustrating. This is undoubtedly true, but there are also ways in which a best of one format makes Floodgates worse, too. If the Floodgate player loses the coin, more often than not they'll lose the game, for example. But even with that, I think the same considerations apply. If you're playing a deck that loses to a Floodgate, what will you do if you encounter it? Lose? Scoop? Or do you have a plan? Is it possible?
That's what I'm saying.
Possible to make a plan? With all due respect...
Paradise, King Calamity?
Okay, well, with Floodgates like Paradise Smashers and King Calamity, you may actually legitimately have me here. Turn skip Floodgates are probably just outright bad for the game. We can ban them. You got me. Can't even pretend to defend them. We'll put a small asterisk here. Those cards suck. And I don't know. I could like try and lawyer you by being like, are those really Floodgates? They don't turn off a mechanic. They skip your opponent's turn, but no, they're Floodgates and they're terrible for the game, and they can all go. All of them can go. Even the Neos one, even the Hero one. I'm sorry. I know it was cool in the anime. It's gone. Get rid of it. I don't want it. Bye.
Endboard
And then
gross.
the last argument that I think has some teeth that I want to talk about is a position like this. That the Floodgates themselves are fine, but as part of a larger end board, they make games unplayable no matter how much you prepare.
That's exactly what Crispy Applesauce said. Sometimes it's just you just made an impossible to beat end board, and then you put a Floodgate on top of it, right? So yeah, it's like that one, like the statues, right? You just have a board of like 5 negates, not 5, maybe 3 Omni negates that are all like water attribute, and then you put the statue, and the opponent is not running water monsters. What do? They lose. They cannot even out that thing because they have ways to protect it.
And while that might be true, I don't think this is a problem with Floodgates so much as it's a problem with the power of going second in Yu-Gi-Oh! In general.
Sure.
Is it really that different if you're facing down a full VS-K9 board plus there can be only one? Or would the board be enough anyway, even if that last card were just an imperm or whatever? Well, there you have it. Floodgates add a layer of complexity to theorizing about Yu-Gi-Oh! That is arguably really fun. It allows for new players to grasp concepts within the game that might otherwise be difficult to parse, and it creates distinctions in skill at all levels of play. Plus,
that's it. We said literally the opposite. The argument 2 was the opposite, right? That it makes for games where the bad player wins when they shouldn't.
Cards feel great to play. They feel individually powerful and game-winning in the way I want Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards to feel. And they turn every game into a puzzle of preparation and game knowledge. So, go out onto the MD ladder right now and start flipping Synchro Zone. So, if you flip Synchro Zone against me in real life, I'm, like, actually crying.
In real life?
You will sit there and watch me cry. You can call a judge if you want. No rules against it. I'm bringing the game to a halt. I don't care. I prepped for a long time for this event, and you're just gonna flip a Floodgate? Nah, sorry. I'm crying.
That's so true, right? Imagine preparing for an event, just, you know, spending like hundreds of dollars in your deck building and getting coach and everything, and then you just lose to a Floodgate. Cringe.
Crying. Sorry. I'm crying. You can still win the game, but I'm crying. You're gonna sit there and watch me cry.
Panda Cat is so awesome. I love this. I love this. This video it's gonna be so, yeah, we already know what it is. We already know what it is. The one bad take. I understand now. We love it. We love it. So, chat, does anyone have an actual, argument here? Floodgates versus negate? I will 100% always pick negates. There is no way. You cannot convince me or anything. Or people say, oh yeah, negate everything. I cannot play the game. But it requires at least some kind of skill, right? To actually know when to activate each negate. The Floodgate is just like, oh yeah, I put this and you cannot play the game. That's it. That's it. Oh, also, we didn't talk about how bad putting different Floodgates at the same time is, right? Sometimes the Floodgate doesn't let your opponent activate anything, completely force them out of interactions, right? There is nothing that you can activate anymore. It's done. So yeah, awesome video. Really interesting to talk about Floodgates. And yeah, thank you so much, Pandacat, for making this video and compiling all the arguments. Thank you. I think we should print less once per turn Omni negates and require cost, or only let the negates hit specific card types. That sounds interesting. I think minor Floodgates are fine. Not stuff like all monsters effects on the field is negated, but stuff like all dragon monsters on the field are negated. I don't think that helps. I feel like maybe that will work if your opponent has to choose one, right? Maybe that's better. Your opponent chooses which. No, because that will also make choose one that is not. I feel like maybe Floodgates should have a bigger effect for the opponent or something. I don't know. Floodgates should have a consequence. Yeah, you have to have a drawback, right? Like Dinomorphia, that you have to have like low LP, for example, like very, very low LP. And that's good too, in a way, because they have a weakness, right? That as soon as you out it, they die. Or they die to anything that causes damage, but also can activate something from the field. So I don't know. I can see that. Poppy chooses divine, flip DNA surgery. Oh, I understand.